This is Pod Populi, podcast for the people.
Hey, Pernille, how are you?
I'm excellent, thank you. I'm in Santa
Wonderful.
Barbara and
Nice.
visiting some friends that are they are traveling. So my husband and I
Okay.
are watching dogs and cats and
Oh, fun.
beautiful place, yes.
Yeah, I moved from Santa Barbara to Arizona, so that's how I met my husband actually, in Santa Barbara.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I lived in Santa Barbara for many, many years. So yeah, I
Yeah.
love Santa Barbara. It's beautiful.
Yes, it really is a magnificent place, and
I know.
I am not so sure. You know, my husband and I, he retired a year ago. And I've sort of been, I wouldn't, yeah, just a different life I live like since I left IKEA. But um, it's interesting because we traveled for a year after he retired. We went all over the world for a year, and that's what I told him. You have to learn how to do nothing. And then we're kind of still thinking about like where would we want to live? And we live in Long Beach. Our kids are there. We love it. But it's why not explore? And we
Right.
come to the conclusion that Santa Barbara is a great place to visit, but we're not going to live here.
Okay.
Right.
It's
Right.
the process of elimination then.
Yes, exactly. But, anyway,
Yeah.
All right. So our Pod Populi, are they ready for us?
Yep, Ricky says
Sure
we
are? Okay,
are
perfect.
ready to go.
Perfect. Oh, thumbs up.
Yep.
I see it. Awesome. All right. Well, this is how we usually start with our jingle.
okay.
So, welcome to Swedes on the Loose. We are so excited to be here today. I'm Christina.
And I'm Sandra.
And we have a very special guest here today. We have Pernille Lopez. And do you go by Pernille Lopez and your hyphenated name, or you just go by Pernille Lopez?
Pernille Lopez is perfect. Yes.
Beautiful. Well, welcome, Pernille. We are so flattered and so excited to have you on our show today. Thank you for being on Sweets on the Loose with us today.
Thank you.
Well, it's exciting.
You come highly recommended by our last guest who we had on, Suzanne Southard.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've known her for a long time. We've been friends since the mid 90s, I think.
Wow.
Long time. Yeah, we asked her, I said, who should we have on the show? And she said, you have to speak to Pernille. She needs to be on your show. So we are very, very, very happy that you're here with us today.
Well, great to meet both of you and happy to be here.
Thank you.
And you have a shared love of IKEA.
Yes.
That is correct. That is correct. I think, I mean, I was with them for 21 years, and Suzanne, I think, left for a number of years and is back and just loved the whole culture. She loves the Swedishness, and so it's really fun to watch her and we both, I'm actually on one of the IKEA boards. So yeah, I guess we have that for sure in common.
Yes, you do. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit like who you are and, why did we want to have you on the show? I mean, I know why I want to have you on the show, but we would love for you to share your story about, who are you and what are you, who were you and who are you today, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, hopefully I'm the same no matter where I am.
Okay, good answer.
But if you want to hear a little bit about my story, I can share that, that I grew up in Denmark and I was in Denmark till I was 23 years old. I had a great childhood. I had wonderful parents. We traveled a lot. But it's funny, I was always thinking about like I didn't belong and felt like an outsider. And it was interesting because none of my siblings did. But I had this feeling like, this is strange. But anyway, I sort of didn't think so much about it and just continued my life. And we lived in a small village or a small place outside Aarhus in Denmark. And after high school, I went to journalist school and
Oh,
graduated as a journalist. And, it was like one of these first aha moments where I realized I was never going to be a great journalist. Or at least it was going to be many years before I was going to write what I wanted to write. And so I decided to do something else. And I had explored, journalism for a year after I graduated, but I was very young. Everybody else had much more experience. So all the jobs sort of went to, yeah, the more experienced. And so I thought about what would I do. And it came to a friend of mine and myself. We kind of explored the idea of starting a business. And we were both interested in home furnishings. And so I started, she exported, and then I was going to go to the US and import Danish design.
okay.
So it was quite a adventure. And so I ended up actually moving to the United States at 23 on my own. And all I had was a container on the water with some Danish design, my brother in Florida, and then I had, my visa to work, and I would say a backpack of Scandinavian values. So here I landed in
Wow.
Florida, and for 2 years, I drove around in Florida and tried to get this business going. And of course, now I know it was the worst place to start a business when you talk about design. They're always
Okay.
behind, and
Okay.
certainly what I was selling was not what really people wanted, you could say, and were ready for. But didn't do my research, but I learned a lot about living in the US and hustle and got a lot of connections. After 2 years, I got a great opportunity to work for a company that probably still is selling European furniture, and I started working there. I had met him, and he said, "If you ever want a real job, come see me." And then I called him, and I didn't realize in America you say a lot of things, and I don't know if he really ever expected me to call him up. And that's really how I started in the home furnishing business. So
Okay.
I worked with them for a couple of years, and then I was recruited for a company in California that were copying IKEA. So I thought, well,
Oh,
that was
wow.
an interesting, opportunity. So I moved to California and lived in Los Angeles and worked for this company for a couple of years. We got it started, and in those years that I worked with that company, I met my husband, and that was sort of the biggest gift I got. And we've been
Oh.
36 years now. So
Oh.
anyway, but that really was an incredible opportunity to learn about American retail, build-ups, big stores, being a manager. It was really, it wasn't the company I was going to stay with forever. There was a misalignment on values, but it was a great opportunity. And as I said, the big prize was finding my husband. Um, and then when IKEA came to California in 1990, I was like, this is what I got to do. So I started with IKEA in 1990 and really had an incredible career from being a sales manager. Um, the first year I was with IKEA, first 2 years I was with IKEA, we were in LA. I also had two children, and then I got an opportunity to move to Pittsburgh to be a store manager, and that's actually where I met Suzanne.
Oh,
And
okay.
that was my dream job, and probably still is the best job I've ever had.
Oh.
So I came to Pittsburgh, and I did not know that that was the worst IKEA store in the whole world.
Oh
And
no.
and they had never
Oh,
told
no.
me that my job was actually to either turn it around or they would close it. And
Wow.
I had no experience. I had two little kids. My
Oh
husband
my gosh.
was a teacher and had to go back to school. And we had no support system, no anything. It was just like, wow,
Wow.
here we are.
Yeah.
But it became a real life-changing moment for all of us. We ended up living in Pittsburgh for 9 years. Um,
So you turned it around for them.
So, yes, I did, but I would say this was probably the biggest we. because one of the things I realized and has been one of my life lessons is not knowing can be very powerful. And so I ended up uh, not knowing how to be a store manager and what were my resources going to be to help me do this. Because all the employees looked at me. I was the third store manager,
Wow.
and I was the one that had no experience. I was at that time there were no women that were running IKEA, and here I was with two children and an unemployed husband. It wasn't the best selling point. Um, but what was I going to do? And so I really thought I will just ask the people. And that became the
Okay.
biggest gift because, of course, they knew. They
Mhm.
knew why we weren't successful. They knew
Okay.
what needed to be done.
And what was it?
What was it? That IKEA had totally miscalculated the market and came in alienating the market and the culture. And they came into a market, Pittsburgh, they're very, very loyal to American brands. They had lost the steel industry to the, export, to Japan. And so it was a city that had gone through really a tough transformation, came out in a fantastic way, but they were very leery of anybody coming in and saying, "Here we come, we know better." And that's what IKEA did. And so I really had to figure out how to turn that around. And that was really to be a member of the community and ask customers what they needed, what they wanted, how we could make it better. And because the store was doing so bad and IKEA didn't really understand at the time what was wrong, they kept on they said, "Oh, the Pittsburgh people want big sofas. Well, then let us give them those big recliners and let us give them what they want." And so the store actually was not uh, the typical IKEA store. No, we had made
Oh,
it smaller.
interesting.
We had leased out half the store to, I think it was Toys R Us or something.
Oh,
We had also minimized the sales floor and we had brought in a lot of American product. So it
wow.
was not the IKEA experience that everybody that were the fans experienced in other stores. So it was really a lot about trying to bring IKEA back to its core and from that perspective, explain and communicate to customers what was the benefit of IKEA. So it was like a rebranding, but really get our own kind of house in order first and be very kind of mindful of the messaging and connections and so that was really a fantastic experience. I also joined a program to learn about the history and the transformation of the city of Pittsburgh, and that was helpful as well because I understood what could be, how could we be partnering with people as the community moved forward to a new era.
But that
So
all takes time. Everything that you're explaining, I mean, it all does make sense. And I imagine it also took time.
I was there for 4 years, and in those 4 years, we went from, I first started, we were losing a lot of money, and within 2 years, we made a dollar, and
Wow.
within
Oh my
4
gosh.
years, we reached the sales number that I had said we were gonna get to, and then the store would be saved, you could say. And IKEA does, it's very seldom IKEA closes stores. So I knew there was a commitment from IKEA to let this, continue to grow. And, but of course, they needed to see that there was positive opportunities. And yeah, the store is still doing very well. And one of the things that actually was a problem too was the employee did not feel we were living the values of IKEA, and so it was a great opportunity also to kind of, for myself, really learn how to lead a culture change and living the values and understanding the values myself in crisis. No, it's easy to be a generous and supportive culture when things are going well, but how do you show up when things are not going well? So yes, this was a really interesting experience for me. I was always talking about women and really the value of understanding community and bringing the whole community into the store and what does that look like. And the head of IKEA North America at the time was kind of like always listening to my, here's what we need to do. This is what I think is, opportunities for our HR policies and all that. And there was no HR manager at the time for North America. So and one day he just said, well, why don't you just take that job? I'm like, what? Not that I had
Wow.
mind. But then I started thinking about it, and I realized that a lot of the things that I really believed in, I felt would really be helpful for the rest of the North America and in our kind of entry and continuing development at IKEA in North America, and especially the US. So I took the job of HR manager for North America and did that for 4 years, commuted between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. So that was quite a challenge. With now my husband he was a school administrator, running a middle school, and my kids were just growing a little bit. They were still in elementary school, so it was really a challenging time for all of us, but also exciting. And then I did a lot of work with the HR globally as well. And I got to meet the CEO, the new CEO for IKEA, Anders Dalvik, and he was CEO for many years. And he wanted me to help with a global strategy for HR, which I did together with other HR managers in the IKEA world. And at some point, he just told me he really would like to work with me further. And then one day I was, my husband and I were thinking about moving to Philadelphia because my husband could work in Philadelphia. He was more established now, and that is where the headquarters of IKEA is. So we were looking for houses, and my boss called me and said, "Can you come into the office?" And I said to my husband, "Maybe we don't need to move. I don't know what I've done wrong." It's like this whole thing about, your head starts.
Yeah.
So I walked in and I'm like, okay, okay, what do you need to tell me? And he says, yeah, Anders Davik wants you to be the new head of IKEA North America, taking my job as I'm moving back. And I was like, what?
What?
You did not see that coming.
No,
Wow.
no.
You were ready to get
Wow.
to bring a box to your office and put
Well,
your
I was
plants.
not, I was definitely one that was pushing the envelope on a lot of different things. So, you kind of like, I don't think I felt like I was going to get fired, but it was definitely not that what I expected.
Wow.
What a compliment, though. I mean, that is a job well done is always a bigger job. And that's literally what you got. You got a bigger job.
Exactly. And it's so funny because I
Wow.
always think about like I never really were qualified for any of the jobs I've ever done. And so you just sort of have to be, okay, what do I do now?
Right.
And so that's why I was telling the story about the Pittsburgh, because when I became HR manager for North America, I'd never been an HR manager, but I
Yeah.
knew what people needed and wanted and what they were asking for, and also what the business needed and the store managers. And then, of course, being a HR manager and going into this role, I had also been a store manager and
Right.
had sort of also been in touch with the bigger IKEA and knew a lot of people and had a big network. So I was like, okay, and that
Oh,
was, I would
wow.
say, yeah, in a lot of ways, I would say the store manager and the HR manager job prepared me mentally for being heading IKEA North America for 9 years. And we went through a lot of changes, expansion, the company kind of reorganized. And so all of that was, all happening at the same time. Economy, 9/11. It was like the perfect storm. And,
Right.
but I will have to say, I think those two other jobs sort of prepared me for really what I needed to do. And I remember there was many times I would call Anders Dalvik and say to him, yeah, I mean, if you don't feel I'm doing a good job, at any point you're welcome to tell me because I can move on. I hope and believe I've always been Pernille and the same. And I do think that that has to do with knowing who you are. And I think I had a very strong sense of myself when I moved to the US, not as clearly expressible as it is now.
Right.
But I remember thinking that that is what I have with me. I know
Okay.
where I'm from and my roots, and I didn't necessarily want to be hanging, I wanted to explore America with an open mind,
Of
but
course.
I realized that was always there. And I would
Got it.
see the world through that lens. I would see um, equality or lack of. I would look at, you talk about work ethics. I would look at sort of the world through some of those very like humbleness and, you know, um, the greater good and community and, um, yeah, caring for others. And I feel like there was a lot of me, you know, that was just part of the lens I was looking through.
Okay.
And then over the years, I've also questioned some of those, like, are they still valid? And
Okay.
I've really created more consciously my own set of values that isn't just Scandinavian values or Danish values, but really
Right.
about who I am. And
Right.
so I mean, the good and the bad. No, I also traveled with the Yenta law with me, like don't think you're anything and
Right.
Right.
all of those things. And that was
Oh,
actually,
we haven't. That's a great concept. We haven't talked about that yet
We
on
haven't.
this podcast. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I think that was part of why, like when I think back about why I didn't feel like I belonged in Denmark, or at least in the smaller community. And it's not that I go back there and I was at our 40th or 50th, middle school reunion, and I totally appreciate where I come from, but I also recognize that I felt like an other. And
You still feel like an other back in Denmark.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think in the school I grew up in, or in where the little town where I grew up, I think in the class, I am the only one that lives in another country, and only two other
Oh,
people moved outside of that community.
Mm.
wow.
So of course it was, probably, and my dad was an ophthalmologist, so we moved different places. So we came into this community and were definitely different. And
Right.
and I do think I experienced the Yanta law growing up. And I think that was probably why I was like,
How would you explain the Yenta law?
yeah, I don't know if I'm an
That's a whole
expert.
new podcast.
Yeah, it is. I just remember it's this, like it kind of holds everybody down to a certain, like being different is not appreciated. And celebrating other people's success, absolutely not. And just don't think you are really anything. And I think it goes against what, sort of like you want people to live their full potential. You want people to shine and be happy and pursue things that they love. And I just perceive that as sort of like a neutralizer. It's like a little bit of, let's put a ceiling on how great, how happy, how wonderful, and I believe me, I don't think that's necessarily, not that that's true necessarily today, or even at that time. It was just my perception of it.
Right.
And I think some of that even is in the IKEA culture, and I think some of it is really good because it does, kind of, makes people, it's an equalizer too. It's kind of like,
Right.
don't think you're better than anybody else.
Right.
That I have never, like, I don't think I'm better than anybody else. No, I don't.
Right.
I also don't think that we should think about ourselves as not good or good
Right.
enough. I think that's a struggle that we all have, is I think I am enough. I am talented. I have lots of potential, and that's for every soul in this universe.
Right.
It's
Mhm.
that have that, and so I think life is about for people to explore that, and
Right.
so so I think, but of course, to a certain degree, you don't want to be overly, dominated by other people and look at other people as they're not as good as you are, regardless where they come from. So
Right.
I think there's some positive things in it, but so I'm sure there's an updated version on the young.
Well,
we
I think
need
it's
to research that
yeah. Yeah, I think it's
for sure.
impressive that you have been able to maintain those really core values. And, obviously that speaks volumes of who you are as a person and as a leader. But in particular in your field and, during the times that you were in a really high leadership role where it was probably fairly, male dominated as it still is. So I think that's super impressive and probably one of the many reasons why you've been awarded so many impressive awards. I mean, what is it? Let me see. I saw that you were featured in the Forbes magazine, Harvard Business. I can't even read in the Harvard Business Review, the Wall Street Journal, Fortune, and so on. This is why.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, that I just didn't think that I needed to change who I am to be successful. And I think it's for what the people that ever hired me, they saw me.
Mhm.
And why would I and then if they continue to see me and support me, why would I not stay true to who I am?
Right.
And but so that is, I see that clearly, and I'm always very thankful and appreciative of them seeing something in me that I still hadn't acknowledged myself.
Right.
And then, of course, and that I just pay forward. I think
Right.
it's such an important thing to look at others and see what is it that you have that we can explore, that you can grow into, that you might not know today. So
That's
Huge.
amazing.
Yeah.
Because I can only imagine coming from Denmark and then I'll be thrown into being an HR manager in the United States. Must have been a wake up call because that is night and day. Because HR, I have worked in Sweden for just a little bit, but HR in Scandinavia versus HR here in the United States is completely different. So that must have been a real challenge. Obviously, you succeeded, but that must have been a cold shower to do that, to say the least.
What's interesting? It all comes down to, of course, there's many more laws and regulations and different things a company needs to do. And especially in Europe, you have much more government oversight, you have more unions, et cetera, et cetera. But it all comes down to very basic things. People just want you to do what you say you're going to do and
Right.
be seen, valued, appreciated. And then if you do that and focus on that, then it will all can work out. And it's always the managers that are not living the values, that think they're better, that don't take care of their employees, don't, do what you're supposed to. They're the ones that cause all the issues for HR.
Right.
And so, but of course, and I actually think by being a store manager and doing what I did in Pittsburgh, I saw every aspect of that.
Right. Yep.
And because we had let the people down. And when we
Right.
said, okay, we're going to turn this around, you're going to be involved, we're going to listen to you, we're going to take care of the things that people would ask. I would say, what are the 5 things that you need from your HR? I mean, they were sometimes the simplest of things.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, and you could just be like, "Oh, okay." I remember when we were talking about, how could they manage their lives. A lot of the families that work in an IKEA store is a dual income and they have children. And
Right.
children has to go to daycare. And if you're asked to be at the store at 7 o'clock for a shift and daycare doesn't open until 7:30 or
Mm.
at 7, you're going to be late all the time because you're going to make
Mhm.
sure your kid gets to that daycare.
Right.
And so when do you think you can be there? 7:30. okay, let's change your schedule to, I mean, we're not running
Love
an
it.
emergency room here, no?
Right,
And
right.
those were just some things where you're like, okay, we can do that. And
Wow.
so I was always surprised about what people, the simplest of things would make the biggest difference in their lives.
That's amazing.
And then just being compassionate and listening and hearing what
Yeah.
they say. And they don't expect you to fix everything, no, but they want you to actually try. If you say you're going to do it,
Right.
you better try. And if it
Mhm.
doesn't work, come back and they'll be fine, you
Yeah.
know. So
And a lot of it is common sense. And like you said, yeah, just letting everybody have a voice.
Right.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's again when you talk about the big jobs, all of these things kind of all carry through. If you go into a big, huge job that you've never done before, be humble and don't try to fix things and make decisions right away because you actually don't know. And if you make
Right.
the decisions too quick and you have a big, CEO job, those changes you make that first, 30, 60, 90 days, you're gonna, good or bad, they are gonna follow you. So if
Right.
you don't make big decisions, you still can actually figure out what are the
That's a
real
good
decisions.
advice. I like that.
Yeah,
That's
very good
very good.
advice.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
And
Very
unfortunately, I
nice.
mean, a lot of CEOs come into jobs, and
Yeah.
then, they're public companies and all the investors and shareholders, they're like, what are the first things you're gonna do the first 10 days you've been on the job? And
Right.
they don't, they often have to. They're
Yeah.
pressured into make big decisions that I think some of them will regret when they actually get to know their job and the organization. So
Or a wise answer would be, I'm going to watch. I'm going to stay
yeah,
back, listen and
Right.
learn and watch. Yeah.
Right.
yeah. There's actually a big change with IKEA now. There's two CEOs for different parts of IKEA, and it really looks like that is, I don't follow it. I'm not part of the Inca group, but it's interesting. I was just reading that they are really trying very hard in and focusing on exactly a good transition. It's an internal promotion,
Oh,
long
nice.
time success. Like they've been in the job in the IKEA many years, and this handover of, we're going to do this together. I'm going to take time to go out and talk to people in the organization, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Okay.
and that's the beauty of a privately owned company.
Right.
Not sort of pressured, but I think some CEOs in public companies are also using shareholders as an excuse. If you are CEO, you say, I need time, or you shouldn't have
Right.
taken the job.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Wonderful. Well, I'm just blown away about your career, and we just, it's so nice to have a fellow Scandinavian who's done so well. And it sounds like your daughter is following in your footsteps as well. And so we are so appreciative of you being on the show with us today. We would love to share the information with the link on our Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We can do as well to make sure that people can connect with you. And I think I would like to do these sessions to figure out. I think I'm pretty good at knowing where I'm at today, where I want to be. But there's always stuff that you can learn, and I'm always open to learn something new. So thank you for sharing your story with us, Pernille. This was great.
Yeah.
Well,
Very, very fun to hear. And the listeners know that I'm always open to self-help and guidance. So I'll sign up. Sign me
Yes.
up.
Yes.
oh, that's great. One of the things that I just have, I would say probably my life lesson is that this work of actually getting to know yourself and living a life aligned to your values and what you really like to do and want to do is just never over. And I think that's the thing. People are like, I've done enough of that self-help, or people,
Got it.
people minimize it. And I think that is the biggest opportunity we all have. And
Okay.
that you are aware of who you are and the choices we make, and that there's so much more. Like once you open one door to something, you're like, wow.
It's
uh,
Pandora's box.
It is. It is.
The big joke is that I live in the self-help aisle, well, that I used to. I'm trying to tell myself and everybody else that I don't anymore. I just have the tools there, and I go visit. But I found myself there. I don't know, was it 10 years ago? I don't even 15 years ago now, when my life kind of went sideways with a child who needed medical attention, and I was in the middle of a divorce, and all hell broke loose. And so that's kind of how I entered into that aisle of the bookstore. And I've found a lot of really good stuff there. And I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to be when I grow up. So, yeah.
Hey, I think that is such a, and that is so important to see this as, yeah, we probably all go there self-help. No, when I had that, um, you know, anxiety crisis, I didn't know. I was so embarrassed. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was like, I wasn't
Oh,
going to tell
interesting.
anybody that. So I was like hiding in the bookstore. And thank God I found Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way, which
Okay.
many people talk about was life-changing. And she still
Okay.
is out there. And she was the power of journaling and helping people be
Okay.
unstuck in their creative world. But of course, it's unstuck in anything. And
Okay.
and I just think that the self-help aisle really got a bad rep, no, because if you don't know yourself, and if you're not taking care of yourself, and growing, uh, you know,
Oh, I just said, yeah, you're right. No, I just had a minor epiphany here too. This is great. Yeah, because this is not just about going to the self-help aisle and asking other people for advice and getting input. It's your output. It's, you know,
absolutely.
it's the internal self. And you've said it so clearly, and I don't know why, maybe it wasn't landing with me until now, but it's 100%. It's knowing yourself and then going to find the tools that work for you.
And they're just endless. No, it's like you could, there's just so many new things that are there to learn about when you stop thinking about it. I'm just going to do this until I get my feet. I thought I will just try to get above the water and then I'm good. No, no. Then I realized I really had a lot more work to do.
Right.
And I'm like,
Right.
okay. And now I'm like, this is life. This is how you grow
That's
and
great.
continue to. So now my husband is like, he's taken a year off, and I'm so happy because I was worried that he would be like, okay, what do we do now? And he would be, you know, bored, and he hasn't said anything about going back to work yet. So that's good.
Well, that's good. So can he leave just for as long as he wants to? Or like take a sabbatical or
So he left that job and is now, we don't know what he will be doing. And
okay.
so he decided to retire. And it was really, people were like, What are you doing? Because you have a great job. We want you to stay. But he had been
Yeah.
there over 10 years. And it's a small
Right.
school where,
Okay.
they needed something else and he needed
Right.
something else. And
Got it.
we'll see, and
It's healthy.
it is absolutely.
Yep.
Well, yeah, this was a treat. How fortunate are we to have had
Really.
you
I
on,
know.
Pernille?
Really. Seriously. Thank you so much, Pernille. We really, really appreciate it. And we should thank Suzanne for introducing you to us.
Absolutely.
Because this was great. So maybe we can talk to your daughter one day because we'd love to hear about her travel, the travel agency for
The
women.
Yeah, she
women-centered
actually,
travel company. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's called Wild Terrain.
Okay.
And she's actually just she just left for Argentina. It's a travel company for women, owned by a woman.
Okay.
And they travel to Argentina, Iceland, Portugal, Spain. No, yeah, Menorca. They're starting, southern France, Mexico City, Oaxaca, New Orleans.
Wow.
Lauren that started is our daughter is the second employee she hired, and they
Okay.
only stay at women-owned hotels. They
Oh,
Oh, fun.
only go to women-owned businesses and restaurants. And but yeah, it's real. Yeah, she's
We
Loving.
would love to talk to her.
Yes,
That's
for
awesome.
sure.
I will.
Love
I'll
that.
send you that, and you can at least follow it on Instagram.
Yeah, for sure.
And
And-
Christina, we should plan on doing one of those trips. Maybe we can go to Iceland and ride Icelandic horses.
Ponies. Yeah, that would be so fun.
I always wanted to do that.
Well, then come with us.
I know. I will.
Yes.
You never know how these connections are made.
You
You
never
never know.
know. You never know. There
Well,
you
this
go.
was a blast. Thank
Yes.
you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. Thank
And
you
thanks,
so much.
listeners, for being here and for tuning
Yes.
into this episode with Pernille. And we'll
Yes.
see you on the next show,
Next
right,
week.
Christine?
Yes,
Yeah.
we will. Thanks for
Bye.
listening. Bye,
Have a great
everyone.
weekend. Bye.
Thank you. You
Hey,
too. Bye bye.
Dora.
Hey, dog.